This building, it's an old building.
Yeah, this is an old building. Where we used to be down at Station 1, down into Getty Square, Chicken Island area. That was a very old building. They actually used to have the Fire Academy there.
Oh, no
That's
kidding.
where the Fire Academy first started.
Wow.
They trained in there. We had a tower on one side of the building. And then about 4 years ago was condemned.
Wow.
So we had a lot of issues going on. They were afraid that it was going to collapse. There were collapsed walls that they were afraid it was going to happen. So they said, okay, well, we have to move you guys. And we were in with Ladder Company 7-1.
What was that relationship like?
Oh, it was great. It was great. Basically what happened was that usually if you're in the rescue and you're the junior guy and the rescue is full, but the ladder company isn't, you get bumped to the ladder company.
Oh.
So for that tour.
Right.
That was great. Now, the flip side also occurs where if you're the junior guy on the ladder truck and you're heavy and the rescue's light, you get bumped to the rescue.
Yeah.
So it kind of worked out a little different for me. So when I went to Ladder Company 7-1, I spoke with the captain. I said, hey, Cap, I would love to come to the ladder company, but, eventually I want to go to the rescue.
Right.
That's where I want to go to. And the captain was just like, no, absolutely. We want you to come down to 7-1, no problem at all. We know where you want to go. And, so you have to make aware that the captain knows what your intentions are.
Right.
So it actually worked out pretty well because I was usually a junior guy at 7-1, and I got always bumped to the rescue.
Cool.
Now the flip
Not a
side
bad
to that,
problem.
no, not a bad problem at all, right?
Yeah.
And then the flip side to that was now I was on the rescue. When you get the rescue spot, well, now I was the junior guy in the rescue, so now I got bumped to the truck,
ladder,
which was still not a bad gig at all.
No.
So we, it was great so far. I'll tell you, I've been blessed with my career.
Yeah.
I can't complain at all.
One of the cool things that I noticed right up the bat with you was your family's so important to you. And that's the first thing you want to talk about was your family.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Tell me how that transcends into the fire service for you.
Well, to me, listen, being a firefighter, being an officer is great. It's awesome. I thank God every day that I get up that I have this job. Every single day, I thank God that I have this job. But, to me, the most important thing is being a dad and being a husband. I have 2 girls at home. Well, not 2 girls at home anymore. One's in college,
Right.
and I have an older one at home, and then my wife. So to me, that's so important. And, we do a lot of things together, but they realize that, listen, when I'm at work, I have a different responsibility. I'm responsible for the guys that are riding behind me.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, we're still a family, it's just a little differently now,
Speaking of family, what does that kitchen table mean to you?
Kitchen table is, it gets crazy sometimes. I remember when I first came on, I wouldn't sit at a kitchen table. I knew a lot of guys, from the city and particularly some of the guys from the special operations where, they always told me that, listen, you got to earn your seat at the table.
Right.
You can't just sit at the table and start talking. Listen, you have nothing to say.
Right.
You're a young kid. And even when I first came to the rescue, when we were at our other house, we had, I had guys that were legends on this job who were in Tower Ladder 7-1 and the rescue. And I wouldn't dare say anything.
Right.
I was petrified.
Right.
I was like, wow, these guys are like, this is it.
Would you agree it's different culture today?
I would definitely agree. It's a different culture. I think, technology's great, but I think sometimes it could be a downfall for us. I see a lot of guys on their phones in the kitchen. We're not talking. It used to be you'd sit at the kitchen table and you were solving the world's problems. You were solving the fire department's problems. Everything was getting solved, right?
Right.
If only they listen to firemen, right?
Right.
But nowadays it's a different. It's a totally different story.
Yeah. So, would you say coming up for you then? And before I get into that, when did you graduate to Fire Academy?
I graduated Fire Academy in 2000.
So what the hell got you into this? What made you become a firefighter in the first place?
It was crazy. I mean, I think my parents thought I was nuts. I went to college. I went to graduate school. I got a graduate degree. I started working at Cornell Medical Center in the city. I have the master's degree in physiology, so I was dealing my emphasis was in cardiology.
Really?
So I did a lot of testing of the heart, learned a ton about that. But you're always dealing with sick people. You know what I mean? You're still helping people, but you're always dealing with sick people.
Right.
You know, and I knew a few guys. My wife grew up in Long Island. I knew a few guys when I go out there and visit. A few guys that were in the city, and they were city firemen. So, you know, I would sit down and we would talk, and they would tell me about it and say, oh, yeah, we had this great job, and, you know, we did this and this, and then, you know, we got a grab the other day. And I was like, wow, that job sounds pretty cool, you know? So I kept talking to these guys and started saying, you know, hey, listen, you know, how do I go about this? You know, if I wanted to be a fireman, what do I got to do? So, you know, they kind of told me about the procedure. It really didn't tell me anything about the job.
Right.
You know, other than just the stories that we were talking about. And, you know, and I think that's a good thing. You know, you shouldn't really talk that much about the job until somebody comes on the job. It's a brotherhood.
It's a rite of passage.
Right. It's a rite of passage.
Yeah, I agree.
And so they told me the whole procedure. And, you know, I went through this whole procedure, and I was fortunate enough to get called for the job. You know, we took the, you know, all the tests that we had to take and everything.
Right.
I had called for the job, and I was just like, this is amazing.
So after all that, you know, medical background you had, all that school and stuff, it's interesting how you went a totally different direction.
Totally different direction.
Wow.
My parents thought I was nuts because actually at the time, prior to that, I was actually applying for PA schools and med schools.
Wow.
So I was like, yeah, you know what? I think I'll be a PA, maybe a doctor. Let me apply to both. You know, I'll take the MCATs, blah, blah, blah. And, you know, my parents were probably sitting there thinking, oh, he's going to be a doctor. You know, this is great. PA, whatever. You know, and then, woo, right off the track.
Wow.
You know, went right into fires. And I'll tell you what, I don't regret one day of it.
I was just going to say, I bet you don't even look back once.
I don't look back once.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, listen, like I said, it's the best job in the world. Every day,
hands down.
Every day is a different day.
Yeah.
And we don't have, you know, there's been days that are horrendous, you know, 9/11.
Mm-hmm.
Horrendous. Worst day ever.
Right.
You know, I think that was probably the first time and probably the only time that my wife and my kids saw me cry. And that was it.
Yeah.
You know, that was horrendous. But you know what? It's still the best job ever.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, you don't forget those guys.
You know, I always say all the time, I can't believe, you know, I get direct deposit. And when I get it, I go, I can't believe I'm actually getting paid for this.
Right. It is.
Like, I would do it for free, you know.
One of my good friends, John Rodriguez, who, you know, bless him, he passed away. He was on this job, you know.
Right.
And he used to say, you know, we're just big kids getting paychecks.
It's true.
And it's just, you sit there and you say, you know what, John, you're absolutely right.
Yeah, it's true.
You know?
You know, I had an opportunity to interview some warrior guys, you know, 60s and 70s guys from, you know, FDNY. And every one of those guys said they miss it, you know, tremendously. And everyone, there wasn't one guy who goes, yeah, I'm just happy to retire.
Yeah.
You know, they were all happy, you know, they all missed a job and stuff.
Yeah, I know. Listen, you know, eventually my time's going to come where I'm going to have to retire. Yeah. You know, listen, right now I don't want to retire. You know, I want to go as far as I can, as long as I can, because I just love the job.
What is it about Yonkers Fire Department that's so special to you?
Well, to me, I think it's not an overly big job. You know, when you're looking down the city, you got 12,000 guys. You're not going to know every single guy. You know, Yonkers is small enough where we can know just about every guy on our job. You know.
And how many guys do you have in the fire department? How many firefighters do you have?
We roughly have like somewhere in the neighborhood about 322, 323,
okay.
25, somewhere in that neighborhood.
Pretty big number.
You know, we're I think we were like the second or third biggest in the state. You know, obviously you got, you know, New York City,
right.
Buffalo, Syracuse, us. You know, so we're decent size, but really we have the ability. You have the ability if you want to know everyone on this job.
Right.
You know. I know a few years ago it got tough for us because we put so many classes in back to back, and half our job really had less than a year on.
Wow.
So now we're sitting there, everybody's kind of scrambling, like, who's this guy? Who's that guy? Who's this guy?
Right, right.
But now I think
Was that due to a lot of retirements or?
Well, it was due to a lot of retirements. We had a grant, where we were the Safer grant. We had to hire, we were going to hire. So it was a combination of a whole bunch of things. But it was a little tough because nobody
morale
knew.
Boost for the department.
Yeah,
Yeah.
So we were kind of scrambling a little bit. I know I was trying to figure out, okay, who is this guy? You see him in the book, and he's going into the computer to work, and it's like, all right, who is he? We never worked with this guy. I don't know anything about him.
Wow. And these are all guys out of probie school, and you're.
Yeah. So.
And with the ladder company, in the rescue and the ladder, you guys are obviously everybody, and everybody's for the most part everybody's staying for a while, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
And it's not like guys are turning over quick to go to different places.
Yeah, usually when you get to the rescue or you get to, Tower Ladder 7-1, usually that's where you want to be.
Right.
You're not going to be going somewhere else, transferring out.
Right.
Usually that's it. That's where you are.
Yeah. So from the academy in 2000, where'd you go from there?
2000, right when we got out, the way that our class was, we had a large class, so we had 48 in our class, and that was considered a large class.
Okay.
All right, we were second biggest in Yonkers history then. Since then, they have put a class on with 50. So,
wow.
But it's still large. From there, I went to Engine Company 303. Now, what they did with us is, that time you went to a company, you stayed there for 3 months,
okay,
and then there was a job-wide transfer. That job-wide transfer, then that's when you got your permanent assignment.
Okay.
To say,
And what is it? A 1 year gig?
No, your permanent assignment was until you could put another transfer in to go somewhere else.
Oh, okay.
All right. So, I know guys who are from my academy who went to one place,
right,
and they've stayed there this whole time.
Wow.
They haven't moved. Which is good because listen, that's where they like it.
Right.
It works for them.
And it's so great to have a senior guy in the house like that.
Right. To have a senior guy.
Yeah.
So I went to 303. We were there for 3 months, and then the job-wide transfer. From there, I went to Engine Company 311.
Okay.
I stayed approximately like 4 years. All right. And then at the end, just when I was leaving, they turned it into a squad. So it went to Squad 11.
Okay.
Now, the protocol wasn't what it is now. We didn't go on every job. We went on some technical rescue. We were the collapse. We had the collapse rig in quarters like they do now. Went over all that stuff. From there, I went back to 303 because I said, "Hey, listen, I really liked kind of 303. It was good, and there was an opportunity." Pretty much within that same year, another transfer came out, and I said, "Hey, you know what? I'm going to try to go to 7-1."
Right.
The progression was kind of go from an engine company to a good truck company because I knew eventually I wanted to go to rescue, but I wanted to get experience.
So you had that seed planted right from the beginning, you say?
Yeah. I think I always wanted to go to the rescue. I have a picture of me next to the rescue, the rescue that they just got in 2000 when they formed the company again.
Right.
That. Right out of probie school, I had a picture right next to it. So I knew, listen, I want to go to the rescue.
Right.
I just felt like, listen, that's where I want to go.
And you're first generation, right?
First generation.
Wow. That's pretty interesting.
Yeah. So, and I really think that some of the guys that I talked to, some of the guys that I knew in the city, they were all from special operations. And I think that really had an impact on me.
Planted the seed.
Yeah, saying, hey, listen, we did this. And, they were talking about rescue school when they went to rescue school and, rappelling off the tower and this and that. And I was like, wow, that sounds pretty fun.
Yeah.
So
Meanwhile, you could have had a doctor's coat on, making money. And
yeah, well, nothing beats this, that's for sure.
No, absolutely. So after you got into the ladder company, and then how did it be that you got into the rescue?
So basically from the ladder company, the way our department works, our department works on transfers based on seniority.
Okay.
So it's not
as it should.
Who you know, what you know,
beautiful,
anything like that. It's all
it.
Based on seniority.
Yeah, good.
So as soon as you get enough seniority and you can come over to the rescue, then all right, we go to the rescue. We're kind of in a little bind right now, only because of where we're located. Maybe, we're going to get a more junior guy.
Right.
In the rescue right now, so it's kind of turning over a little bit, as opposed, listen, if we were in town, we may have gotten a more senior guy on the rescue.
So now I see that as a two-prong, right? So not only is it something to think about as a senior guy, not knowing you have all the experience on your rig, but at the same time, these junior guys, it must be intimidating for them to step on a rescue, not having the background.
I would think some of them, yeah.
Yeah.
You know, some of them, you know, it all depends on the individual. You know, some guys may do like, you know, side work. They may be carpenters, they may be plumbers, they may be electricians.
Right, right.
Listen, we can always use that on the rescue if you have another trade. Yeah, obviously, you know.
Yeah.
But when it comes down to it, you really have to go to, and we've been pretty good with this, is the rescue school.
Yeah.
You know, we've been running a rescue school for 2 weeks for the last 2 years now. And
Wow.
we're hoping to do it every single year so that when these guys come into the rescue or they come into the squad,
Right,
basically what we do is we're gonna train them.
right.
And every year we try to move it up a notch so we advance them. You know, so one year we may do, it might just be basic rope.
Right.
The next year, we're going to do pick-offs.
Mm-hmm.
The following year, we may do transverse and a low point edge with a basket, you know, with no high point.
So then when the bell rings and the time comes that you're able to go to rescue, you have the background
Right.
and experience.
Right.
Yeah, so that's a home run.
Yeah, so it works out pretty good,
Yeah.
you know.
What looking back at your career now, you know, tell me what it was like when you got the nod that you're going to become a lieutenant. What was that like?
It was a little crazy. It was a little crazy. You know, there were a few lists that I was left pretty close to the top, you know, and
It's always frustrating.
That's the way it happens.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, obviously, if I was left one on this list, I would have been left number one. Listen, it is what it is. Being a firefighter, it's not a bad gig.
No.
You know, I still got the best job in the world.
Right.
I still love my job. I'm not going to change my job.
Right, right.
You know, I'm not going to transfer anywhere. But being a lieutenant, you know, coming from the rescue, I feel it's a little bit easier. You know, I've had 17 years on when I got promoted. So
A lot of experience.
I've done a lot. You
Right.
know, whether it was on the truck, you know, the rescue. So I have some experience. I think it's a little easier coming from the rescue.
Right.
Versus maybe coming from an engine company and then getting thrown into a truck company,
Right.
not having to do a search or something like that, or getting thrown right into the rescue and say, okay, yeah, you're the boss today, even if you're covering.
Right.
You know, it's a little intimidating. I feel a little more comfortable as a boss now. You know, I've been a boss for about a year and a half. So
How do you like it?
I love it.
Is it a different?
You know, it's definitely a different feel. And it's only a different feel because I'm in a different position.
Right.
You know, now I know that, listen, as a fireman, I was responsible for me and the other guy that I was with. We worked as a team.
Mm-hmm.
Listen, I got his back, he's got my back, you know. Now you kind of have to open your vision up and you have to say, listen, I'm responsible for all my guys on this rig.
Absolutely.
You know, I want to make sure that every single one of those guys come home,
Mm-hmm.
you know. And listen, if it's not, you know, if it's in the cards and I don't come home, but every one of my guys come home,
Right.
I did my job.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and that's how I look at it.
It's funny. I've said the same thing, and people look at me like, "What? Are you crazy?" But unless, like you said before, off camera, unless you're doing this job, you don't understand it,
Right.
and it's hard to rationalize that statement.
Yes.
I get it,
Right.
and most of the people watching get it. But, you know, it's interesting. I do have people that watch the show that aren't firefighters.
Yeah.
So when they watch it, you know, I'll often get questions like that. I'm sure I'll get a question about that. Like,
Yeah.
is that something you really do, or is that just something you say? Like, no, that's something we really do.
Absolutely.
And there's a good possibility, a good likelihood you don't come home. And that's just, like you said, if that's what's in your cards, that's what's in
Right.
your cards. It's certainly not something you want to do, but,
Absolutely.
you know, that is the risk you take.
Yeah, and you know, you kind of look at it this way. You know, like I always tell everybody, listen, if we got to bail,
Mhm.
my guys need to get out first before me, because that's my job. I'm responsible for them.
Right.
You know, I couldn't. You know, it's so hard that I would sit there. If they were with me and I went out first and something happened to them,
Right.
I couldn't live with myself.
No.
How are you going to look yourself in the mirror and say, oh, yeah, sorry?
Yeah.
Can't happen.
No, absolutely not. So what's it like for you now to teach at a rescue school? You enjoy that?
Yeah, I do. I really do. One of the good things was that because I had some experience, I can, the whole thing with the fire department is sharing your experiences.
Absolutely, yeah.
With the next generation and the next set of firefighters. Because, like I said, I don't want to retire, but listen, it's inevitable. Someday, I am going to retire.
Right.
And the goal for me, and everybody may not look at it like this, but my personal goal is that, listen, I want to make the fire department a better place than it was when I came on, when I leave.
So sharing your experiences and sharing your knowledge is going to do just that.
Yeah. I mean, think about it. When you share what you know with other guys, and they pick up the ball and run, that's your resume.
Absolutely.
That's my resume. Listen, these are the guys that I taught. Yeah. This is what they do.
Right. And they're, getting information from you, and that information may save their life one day.
Correct.
And how awesome is that?
Right. And you hope. I mean, when I teach on the side, the guy I teach with, he gets some of those messages all the time, like, hey, we had an incident and this is what we did, this is what you guys taught us. And he shares that with me, and I'm like, it makes you feel really good.
Yeah, it's powerful. And it's worth more than money.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, because you can't put a price tag on someone's life. That's for sure.
Absolutely.
So now that you're an officer here with the rescue, so explain this to me, the covering officer. So you can basically go anywhere in the city. Yeah.
So basically, I'm a floating officer. So basically, I float into vacation spots.
Oh, okay.
So anytime that there's a lieutenant on the rescue who's going on a vacation, they usually slide a covering officer into that spot. So right now I'm floating into the rescue. If there's an officer off on a rescue, I float into that spot. Usually, goes for the vacation pick. And then
is that a little challenging for you because you're always with new people?
Sometimes it's challenging. Like when I'm in the rescue, I know everybody in the rescue. So it really doesn't matter what group I go into or where I am, because I know what most of these guys can do and where they are. When I go to another firehouse, it gets challenging because I haven't worked with those guys.
Yeah.
So, sometimes, it's funny, when I first got promoted and I first covered, we were going to a job and I turned around and I had two young kids behind me. And they kind of looked at me like deer in the headlight, like, what do we do? And you got to sit there and you got to say, listen, I'm the officer now.
Right.
Listen, this is what I want you to take. This is what we got to do. Blah, 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 blah. So everybody's on the same page.
Right.
Nobody's going to get hurt. So that makes it a little challenging when I go somewhere else.
Yeah, because you don't have the bond.
Exactly.
That you do with your normal group.
Right.
If you're covering vacations and is that because you're a new lieutenant?
Yeah, usually because our transfers basically for officers work the same way as firefighters. Go on seniority, but it's seniority in rank. It's not seniority on a job now.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so once you get promoted, you go by seniority in rank since you got promoted. Which is normal. So now you just sit there, you buy your time, wait until where you want to go.
So eventually you'll get your own assignment where you're just a permanent lieutenant in that house.
Right. Eventually what happens is I'll put it in transfer. If we get a vacancy, you put a transfer in to wherever you want to go.
Right.
And if you're the senior guy that wants that, then you'll get that spot.
Cool.
The way I look at it, listen, I want to go back to the rescue.
Sure.
Of course, that's where I'm from. That's home.
Right.
To me. But I'm not saying I don't want to go to any other company either.
Right.
There's other companies that are great out there that, hey, listen, if I could get that spot, that might be great too.
Right. Well, it's cool that you're under the mindset that you're just happy to be wherever.
Absolutely.
And I think that's an important message to pass on to these young guys and girls, because you're not always going to get everything you want.
Absolutely.
And just be blessed in what you have. Be happy that you have that position.
Absolutely. And that's the way I look at it. I mean, listen, be happy. You got the best job in the world.
What advice are you giving these new firefighters in rescue that are in rescue school now? What advice are you giving them?
Well, basically, you have to tell them, we can only teach you or bring you so far. You have to take initiative.
Mm-hmm.
You have to do research. You have to constantly be on your reading. Stay up on trends. What's happening? Stay up on any situations that happen in the fire service. Let's say a Mayday, right? Why was the Mayday given? What happened there? As a rescue, I think you have to think outside the box. We're a giant toolbox.
Absolutely, yeah.
And the chief's going to look at you, and he's looking at you because the normal tactics or the standard tactics that were employed or deployed at that scene aren't working. So he's going to look at you and say, okay, what do you got?
Yeah. Now it's time to open up the toolbox. And see what's going on. Yeah.
You just can't sit there and say, I don't know, I got nothing, chief.
Yeah.
That's not an option.
No, it's not.
You got it. You got to be the fix-it for the chief.
And at some point, you're literally last line of defense, literally.
Correct. Yeah. Yeah, you never know,
Yeah.
So, I kind of tell these guys, listen, we can only bring you so far. Definitely start learning on your own. Take classes.
Right.
Read. Do whatever you have to just gain knowledge.
Right.
I mean, I think that's the thing about the rescue. You're never going to be an expert.
No.
The whole thing, even with the fire service, it's too great. You're never going to be an expert in anything.
Right. It's so evolving.
Yes.
It's always evolving. Building construction,
correct.
Tactics,
yeah.
Training. It's
you
constant.
could be good.
Yeah.
And that's great. You could be good in a lot of different things.
Mm-hmm.
But you'll never be an expert. When you think you're an expert, it's time to retire. You're done.
Right. Well, that's when people start getting hurt.
Right.
What I see on your helmet there, you have a 10209.
Where's that?
Right on the side of your lid here.
Oh, yes. That was the Pat Joyce.
Oh, okay.
From Pat Joyce. We made one of the lieutenants we had was a very good friend with Pat Joyce, and he made those for everybody who was in 7-1 or
cool.
rescue.
That's
so
cool.
We kind of wear those. I kept that since I got it.
Yeah, it's cool. It's
like
right in my line of sight.
Yeah.
So I love stuff like that, man.
Yep.
Like that. Things that mean something to you.
Yeah.
Keep on your lid.
Right.
Yep. I always say, like, when my time goes, you got to put my lid with me.
Yeah, that's it.
Keep it with me.
Right.
No one gets to keep that. That's mine.
Yeah, exactly.
Plus, I don't think my daughters want it, so
yeah,
it's too dirty.
Yeah, my kids aren't going to want it either. That's for sure.
So, what advice would you have for a new firefighter? And I think coming from you, it's even better because now that I know your background, that you weren't that kid who aspired to be a firefighter. You weren't that father's son. What advice would you give someone right now looking to become a firefighter or having aspirations to become a firefighter? I
would definitely tell them to do everything in your power to research it to make sure this is what you really want. I was fortunate where, like I said, I knew these guys in the city, and they were officers. They would take me to work when they went in, and I would ride with them. So I really had a good understanding, like, this is what it's like.
Yeah.
And I said, this is something I want to do, Or they would just take me into the firehouse. If they were going into the firehouse just to stop by, they would take me in, talk to a bunch of people about it. And I had a real good understanding about what I was getting into. I didn't fully understand the job and everything, but I had an idea of what it was about, and I liked that it was a brotherhood.
Yeah.
So the new guys, what I would tell them is, listen, do your research. Make sure this is what you want, and if it's what you want, then put everything you have into it to get it.
LT, what this show is raw and real, right? Mm-hmm. I like getting down to the brass tacks of things. What frustrations do you have, if any, in the fire service today compared to when you started?
Well, I think when I started was a different, maybe a different time. Yes, everybody had the technology and everything, but the kitchen table was a lot different because everybody was talking at the kitchen table. They weren't on their cell phones so much.
Right.
Trying to solve the world's problems, like we said. And I think really like the senior guys, when I came on, those senior guys, they really took me under their wings. They told me, they showed me the ropes, and they said, listen, if you're ever going to put a transfer in, you need to let your captain know, and you need to go to the house that you're going to and you need to talk to that captain, give them that respect.
So it's not getting blindsided.
Right, so that they're not going to get blindsided. Because sometimes, listen, it's just not a good fit. You know, go to the captain and say, hey, Cap, you know, I'm thinking about transferring in. I'd like to come into your company. And the captain may say, you know what, listen, you're a little young, or listen, what can you offer, you know, or hey, listen, we'd love to have you.
Right.
Right? Now I think we're kind of like drifting away from that, from like the old school.
So you say now it's just more pen to paper?
Pen to paper, in it goes, that's it. How it falls is how it falls, and everybody's kind of blindsided. Who are we getting? We don't know.
Right.
You know, nobody even knew, like, okay, this guy put in, that guy put in, captain didn't know. You know, I think...
That's a good point.
You know, you need to have some of that old school back, just to have that respect. I mean, listen, there may be captains that... Listen, they don't care.
Right.
You know, they may just say, yeah, okay, whatever.
Yeah.
You know, but there may be some captains out there that say, listen, you know what? You should have came to me to let me know. Listen, do you want to come to my company or not? You know,
a little heads up would have been nice.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. You know,
that's a good point.
So
I can see that.
Yeah, I think sometimes, you know, technology's good, but I think sometimes we need to get back to some of the old school stuff.
Yeah, face to face.
Yeah, face to face, and give the respect where it's due. If he's a captain, he's a captain.
It starts now. I mean, honestly, because, you know, my daughters will be in the same room and they'll text each other and they're in the same room.
Exactly.
You know, and it's crazy, like, you know, but it's just accepted now. Like, it's just the thing people do, you know. And I think what you're saying is such a good point. You brought such a good point. You know, I think you're right. It has to get back to that.
Yeah.
That more face to face, and, you know.
Yeah, we have a lot of traditions in the fire service.
Right.
You know, a lot of traditions, and this was one that should have been kept.
Yeah.
You know,
especially respect for the senior guy.
Absolutely.
Senior man,
You know, I mean, there were houses where the senior man would make the call and say, yeah, hey, you know what? We got an opening. We'd like you to put in.
Right.
You know, and the senior man would talk to the captain and say, hey, Cap, this is the guy we probably should have. And then that guy would come over and talk to the captain, you know.
And I'm sure it went a long way with the captain.
Oh, absolutely. You know, listen, when you had a senior man, like when I started at 3, we had a senior man. He was great.
Yeah.
He was awesome.
Yeah.
He ran the firehouse. And basically, the officer said, listen, I'm just here. That's it. You guys are running the firehouse.
So he was really like the buffer, if you will. Sure. Between, you know, the captain and
Yeah. And I remember, like, you know, when I was at 3, when I went back to 3, 3 basically the kitchen table was 3 folding tables put together. So we made a big one.
Yeah.
You know, and we had the engine company was there, and a battalion and battalion aid. So I remember when I got back to 3, I said, you know what, we should build a table, guys. You know, we should build a nice table, put the emblem in the middle.
Yeah, sweet.
Coat it, you know. And I remember that I went to the senior man. And I said, hey, you know, what do you think about this? We got an idea. Senior man said, listen, you do whatever you want here, you know. Make sure it's nice. Make sure you have company pride. You know, I think that's another thing, company pride.
Oh, God, yeah.
I mean, you know, listen, yes, it's a job. Everybody knows it's a job. You're getting paid for it. But have company pride.
Yeah.
You know, whatever company you're in, have that pride.
Perfect example is right here above our head. I mean, the first thing I noticed when I got inside here, I came to the back of the rig, was that.
Yeah.
First thing I noticed, because just like you said, pride, you know, there you go. Was that 1930?
Right.
Right?
Yep.
I mean, that kind of stuff that's awesome, man. That's pride.
And that came from our senior man. Our senior man put that up and said, listen, this was the company. Have company pride.
Yeah, it's cool.
You know, I mean, every company's going to say, yeah, we're the best company. We do this.
And they should think that.
And they should, because that's company pride.
Right.
You know? And that's how a lot of our guys feel. Listen, this is the rescue, man. Have company pride.
Yeah.
You know?
And same thing with engine 307. They should think they're the best engine.
Absolutely.
Know? It should be that way for everybody.
Right. It shouldn't just be, okay, I'm going to a job. Okay, I'm on an engine, or I'm on a rescue, I'm on a truck. Should be, no, I'm not just on an engine or a truck.
It's hard for me to understand that mentality. Not that, listen, if some guys, maybe it is just a job for them. Maybe it is a career, and it's you know, it's a pension, and it's it pays their bills and medical and all
Right.
that. I get that. But I just don't understand that because for me, it's always been more of that.
Absolutely.
And most people I think you talk to, the majority, have that
Yeah.
pride.
Yeah.
You know.
It's funny too because when we talk about this, if you go into my closet at home, I mean, I have so much 303 gear.
Right.
I have so much Ladder 7-1 gear, and now I had so much rescue gear.
Right.
But I made it a point that if I worked at, let's say, Tower Ladder 7-1, I'm not going to wear anybody else's T-shirt. I'm wearing a 7-1 T-shirt.
Cool.
And it seems like that's kind of anal, or, you're kind of crazy about that. But to me, listen, that's company pride. I'm not going to wear another T-shirt.
It's pride and ownership.
Yeah. Same thing on the rescue. When I was on the rescue, and I'm still on the rescue, even as a covering officer on the rescue, I'm wearing a rescue T-shirt, or I'm going to wear a rescue shirt.
That's cool.
Because that's how I feel. Like, listen, I take pride in this.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
And the fact that you're doing the training outside of this, that says something too. Obviously, this means a lot to you. It's not just a job.
Right. Yeah.
It's a lot more than that.
Absolutely.
So, LT, take me back to this rescue you were involved in.
Okay. This came in March 4th of 2011, and basically I was coming in for the night tour. Now our night tour starts at 6:00. Another thing, call me crazy. I usually get in about 4:00.
Okay.
All right. So I usually am 2 hours early.
So that 2 hours is on you, not on the city.
Right. It's on me. Totally on me. Okay. So basically, I come in early.
Wow.
If there's somebody who wants to go, listen, maybe they got to go get their kid or something like that. That's part of a brotherhood.
Mm-hmm.
Listen, okay, go. I'm in. I got you.
Right.
All right. So I always come in 2 hours early for a night tour, usually. And, I was in early and came into the kitchen and I heard this call come in. So they're like, oh, yeah, we got a scaffolding emergency, looks like they're really high. And I knew exactly where the building was, and we knew that there was work being done there. We knew they were on suspended scaffolding. So nobody wanted to leave. They all got onto the rig, and I said, hey, listen, if you need anything, I'm here, whatever, And at that time, we had some chiefs that were down at Station 1.
Mm-hmm.
So they knew I was in there, and then I had one of the chiefs come from downstairs and said, listen, we're going to bring you over there, over to the incident. So I said, yeah, okay. Now, this was after when a straight stick went up, 100-foot aerial. They knew they were out of reach.
They're above 100 feet?
Yeah, they couldn't get him. They said, okay, he's above 100 feet, so, okay, now we need a plan. We need another plan, So, basically, they took me over there, and we went up to the top. I took a good size up before I went up. Let's see what we got.
Mm-hmm.
And I had one individual who was kind of just hanging on to the building, just like grip death.
Death grip, yeah.
And one guy that was just hanging in his harness. Okay, the guy that was hanging in his harness was lower. Now, the problem with the rescue was that it was basically a blind shaft. Okay, so we had a blind shaft, and it stuck out about 15 feet.
Okay.
And then you had windows all the way out to the left and the right. So, initially they were thinking, all right, maybe we can get them and bring them over to the window. The problem with that is if you're on a rope and now you start swinging them over to a window, you're pendulating them, and you could cut the rope.
Yeah.
So that's a no-go right off the bat. So we went up to the top of the roof, and I said, all right, listen, this is what we're going to have to do. We're going to have to go over. We're going to have to pick them off. I said, not an issue. We can do this. No problem at all. It was
any part of you was like, oh, my God, what am I doing?
I wasn't like that. I was more like, oh, I can't believe this. We're going to get rescued. This is awesome. I can't believe it. Hopefully I get to go over. And that's pretty much what I was saying. I really hope I go over. That's what I wanted to do. So we went up there, and because I teach a lot on the outside with the ropes, confined space, things like that,
right.
I have a little bit more knowledge on, okay, what do we want to rig? How do we want to rig it? Where are we going to rig it to? So basically, we just split everybody up. Okay, you guys rigged the belay line. You guys rigged the main line. And we were on top of a stairwell.
Okay.
So it went up another 10, 15 feet from the ceiling, from the roof. So we were about 10, 15 feet up, and we had a platform working off there. So after everything got rigged, we looked at it. We double-checked everything. We said, okay, no problem, So I said, all right, I'll go over. I got him, I had a captain up there, a lieutenant up there. I said, all right, you got it. So rigged myself up. They lowered me down. I said, let me get the first guy. I said, we're only going to have to raise him up a little bit once I untangle him.
How high were you?
At that time, we were at 30 stories. So we had to get a 300-foot rope that we had down in special ops. Normally, if I had to go from that top to the bottom, 300-foot rope wouldn't reach.
Right.
But we had scaffolding that was a level up on the bottom.
Oh, okay.
So I just had to grab them and then bring them all the way down just to the scaffolding.
Gotcha.
We had other companies down there that would package them up and bring them down the ladder to the ground.
Oh, cool.
So it actually worked out really well.
Yeah.
So I went down there. I took the first guy who was just suspended by his harness. Grabbed him.
What was he doing?
He was just pretty much hanging. He really wasn't. They were a little bit a little weary, saying, "Listen,
they didn't jump on you or anything."
They didn't jump on me because I pretty much told them. We had a language barrier.
Okay.
We had some guys in the window that spoke their language, so I said, "Listen, tell them this is what's going to happen."
Okay.
So before I got to them, they were aware that, listen, okay, I'm coming down. I told them, listen, tell them not to jump on me. Do not get on me. I will hook them up. They're all good.
Okay.
So that was all relayed. So kind of like once I came down, they knew, okay, I'm not going to jump. They told me not to jump. So once I got down to the guy that was suspended in the harness, I basically just clipped the safety onto him right away. Once I clipped that safety on, I got him.
Right.
Everything could break on him. Doesn't matter. I got him.
Right.
He's set. So we did that. Hooked up the main to him. We lifted him up a little bit. DC'd his where he was tensioned in the system.
Right.
Now he's on our system. We're independent, but he's on our system. And then just walked him down, lowered him down to the bottom where the scaffolding was. Handed him off to, I believe it was ladder 7-5 at that time. I think that's who was packaging. They packaged him up. They let him sit for a little while because I was a little concerned that he might have suspension trauma.
Okay.
Okay, just hanging in that harness for a while, not
blood.
moving.
Yeah.
So we had him sit for a while, and then we packaged him up, brought him down, and then we had a guy, the super, who was in the elevator, and it was already down the lobby, went right back in, went all the way back up to the top, and then got the second one.
And what was he hanging on to?
He was basically, he was on his lines, but his feet were kind of at the corners, gripped on, and his hands were gripped on.
Oh, man.
So he was fighting for it,
Yeah.
And so I went up, and I told the guys up at the top, and I remember, because this guy was tangled up pretty good. I said, listen, it's going to take me a little while to untangle him.
Right.
I said, so let me get down to him, let me hook up my safety, and then let me look around to try to untangle him. Now, the thing is with suspended scaffolding, usually you send a line down to secure the scaffolding.
Okay.
So it doesn't fall on you or anything like that. This scaffolding, which was pretty cool, it had it has an internal brake and an external brake. So you have a steel cable that comes down. It goes inside a box on the side.
Okay.
And there's an internal brake in there, and then it should come right back out through.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if that cable is broke at the bottom, you can't see it come out the bottom, then I would definitely have to put a rope on there to hold that, to make sure it doesn't fall down. We'd have to secure it somehow. But that cable came back down.
Oh.
So I knew, okay, the internal brake is holding.
Right.
The cable's not broken. So we really don't have an issue with the scaffolding itself. So I went down, I untangled this guy, and it took me a little while,
Did you have to cut the rope or?
No, we won't ever use a knife with the rope, especially like that when it's loaded.
Yeah.
You know, they asked me, listen, do you want a knife to bring down? And I said, no. I go, we'll just, I'll untangle them. We'll get them untangled. And we got them untangled. You know, they just have to bring them up a little bit more to relieve that, take the tension off.
Yeah.
And then I just have to DC all his lines because once he's on me, you know, on my lines, we're good.
Right.
You know, and then we brought him down, and then, you know, it was a little weird because it was, you know, it was time for the news. There wasn't a big news story that day.
Right.
You had the helicopters up. You know, you had a whole bunch of people watching from Yonkers Avenue. They were watching down, so it was interesting. You know, but it was a good day. You know, not only for me, it was a good day for the fire department.
Yeah,
you
absolutely.
know, and that's what you want. You know, it's not about one person. Because listen, if I wasn't there, it was still going to get done.
Right.
Somebody else would have done it.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
So, listen, they might not do it the same way that you would do it, you know, but it would get done.
Right.
And, you know, that's kind of how I look at everything. Listen, I was blessed to have that.
Right.
That was like, you know, for me, it was an amazing rescue. It was great, but it wasn't just me. It was about everybody else that was doing it. It was about the department.
You're a humble guy. I like that. You know, it's a good thing, and it, you know, obviously speaks to your character. But like, I agree with you when you say that it's good for the city too, because it's good for the fire department. You know, it's good for morale all the way across the board.
Absolutely. You know,
from the chauffeur up. You know,
sure.
Everybody.
Absolutely. I mean, you know, you could train most of your career, almost all your career, and never ever have a rescue like this.
Right.
Ever.
Right.
You know, I mean, you look at Kevin Shea, right?
Yeah. I was thinking that when you were telling me the story, I was thinking about him spinning around.
Kevin Shea, you know, just earlier this week was when he made the rescue. So you sit there and you say, all right, here's a guy. I mean, at that time, that
was like nuts, man.
That was a crazy rescue, right?
Yeah.
And you were like, holy cow. And, you know, when you look back and you see him talking about it, it was like, yeah, you know, we did what we had to do. We got it done, and, you know, it was a great day. Everybody came out good, and, like, you know, he doesn't take credit for that. You know, he looks at the department, says, yeah, you know, and he looked at Rescue Company. Hey, the Rescue Company did great.
Yeah.
You know, and that's
meanwhile, that was like, you know, nuts.
Yeah.
Nuts.
You know? And that's kind of how I looked at mine, you know. Listen, it was great to get all this stuff. Don't get me wrong, you know. Going to Albany, going to the Senate, you know, going to the House. I mean, it was amazing, and I think it was good for my family,
right,
to see that. Wow, that's, you know, my kids were like, that's my dad.
Yeah, superhero, man. That's, you know, good stuff.
And that is, to me, that is greater than anything.
Yeah.
For your kids to sit there and say, yeah, that's my dad.
Yeah.
I mean, it's so funny. I mean, I was at a soccer game a week later, and we had a news station channel there that wanted to come and interview me, and they wanted to come to my house, and I told them, listen, you know, I'm going to be at Randall's Island. My daughter's got a soccer game. That's where, if you really, you know, want the interview, we can definitely do it there. You know, and the news station came at Randall's Island. My daughter's getting ready to play soccer. And, you know, my daughter's sitting there with her soccer team saying, yeah, that's my dad over there.
That's so cool.
Did you guys see what he did, you know? And
that's awesome.
That was great, man.
Yeah.
You know, for my kids to see that.
Yeah,
and
that's
they know,
awesome.
Listen, my dad, you know, he trains a lot. He's away from home.
Yeah. But this is why.
This is why.
This is why, yeah.
You know?
That's a good point, man. So it kind of brings it home for them.
Yeah.
You know, they see what the hell you're doing. It's meaningful.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
You know, it's so meaningful. Is that your most notable rescue?
Oh, yeah, that would definitely be my most notable rescue.
Yeah.
You know, there's not too many compared to that.
Right.
You know?
What's been your most hardest or most challenging part of your career?
I think,
because 19 years is a long time, bro.
Yeah, I think you know, when we have these big fires, when we had Bronx River Road, when we had our recent one, when we have those really big fires, when, you know, when you're on the rescue, and then you know, we go to a defensive attack, you know, I think that hurts me. You know, we know, okay, we have to go to a defensive attack, but we're helpless.
Right.
You know, I feel helpless. You know, when you see all these apartments and all these people of what's happening to this building, and you sit there like, man, we got to be able to do something for these people.
Yeah.
You know, and we know, listen, and I know in the back of my head, listen, you know what? It's just not safe. We can't risk our guys to do this just to save a building.
Right, for
you
property.
Know? But you just, it really gets to you because, listen, nobody really wants to go to a fire. You don't want to see a fire. You don't want to wish bad on anybody. You know, you hope that, listen, if there is a fire, that you're working, that
Right.
you get to go to it.
Right.
You know, but I think the bigger fires where we really feel helpless, that's what kind of hurts me a little bit.
Yeah.
You know, that's what gets challenging for me.
Yeah, I could definitely see that being a challenge.
Yeah, because you definitely, you know, you want to do something, you want to
Yeah.
help, but there's nothing that you can do
Right.
in the capacity where you are. You know,
Brother, is there any last thoughts that you'd like to share with our viewers?
no, I just hope everybody, you know, everybody's doing some training. I hope everybody trains because that's what we're paid to do.
Yeah.
You know, and even if you're not paid, you should be training anyways
Mm-hmm.
because fire doesn't know the difference.
Right.
You know, and just be safe.
Yeah,
Just
man.
be safe in everything you do.
I got to tell you, it was an honor to meet you,
Oh, it was a pleasure.
and being able to hear your story and being able to share with me a little bit of the Yonkers Fire Department was really cool.
Pleasure.
Like I said, I'm looking forward to your new firehouse. So when you get that
Absolutely.
brick on the ground, man, you gotta let me know.
Yeah, hopefully we get a new firehouse and a new rig.
Yeah, that'd be good. Yeah, let me know.
That would be good.
I'll definitely come back to Yonkers for that.
All right.
Thanks, bro.
Hey, thank you very much.
All right, here you go. PintheQ podcast, Yonkers Fire Department with the LT. All right, take care, be safe, and look out for each other.